Where are you, Filhal? In Delhi or in Chandigarh or in Panchkula or somewhere else?
Sir, I'm currently in Delhi, sir.
Okay, Rajendra Nagar or somewhere else?
No, sir, I'm staying at my residence only, sir, in Moti Baag.
Achha, your father is on deputation now to Government of India.
Sir, my father had gone to a reverse deputation to the government of Haryana, and sir, he's in the process of coming back to the government of India within the next couple of weeks.
So you have been able to withhold this accommodation for the last 3 years?
Sir, indeed, sir.
Oh my God, you are on Shantipat.
Sir.
Which Moti Baag? Are you in C2 or one of those secretaries' quarters?
So this is a new colony, sir. It's called New Moti Baag. And so this was made opposite to the old Moti Baag complex. And so there are high-rise towers built over here, which are C2 flats.
Achha, C2 flats. Because I lived in that area.
Okay, sir.
Before demolition, then I moved on to Bapa Nagar.
Sir.
So that was C1. The C2 bata 13 was my, C2 by 13 was my quarter. Then they asked me to get out. And since I was eligible for C1, I went away to Bapa Nagar. They demolished it. All this was in the year 2008.
Okay, sir.
So, good. So, is your father right now the head of the police force in Haryana or one of the DGs in charge of something else?
Sir, currently, sir, he's the head of the police force. He's a Director General of Police in Haryana, sir.
Oh, there must be 2-3 Directors General rank officers in Haryana.
Sir.
Isn't it? There must be 2-3. Every state has 2-3, some 5. So he is DG police. Why is he coming back to Government of India? The CM doesn't like him.
Sir, indeed, sir, he had a 2-year deputation from the Home Ministry to the government of Haryana. So in this case, it was a reverse deputation. And so
what is his CADA? What is his original CADA?
Haryana, sir.
Then it is not a deputation.
Yeah, going back to state.
Anyway, the All India services, the concerned state which you stand allotted on, whose cadre you are born, BORNE, has a first charge, first right.
Sir.
The central government can only borrow the services of those officers which can be spared by the state government. So obviously, the present CM of Haryana is willing to spare your dad's service. And therefore, and maybe if he's already empaneled as a DG in the government of India, he will head some CRPF or some central armed police force. Anyway, enough of that. I will now hand you over to the former Chief Secretary of Telangana, Dr. M.G. Gopal. He will ask you a few questions, then the other panel members, and eventually I will come back and complete the mock personality test. Over to Dr. M.G. Gopal.
Yes, sir. Yes. Mr. Anirudh, can you hear me, see me?
Yes, sir. Sir, I can.
Yeah, good. So you are from IIT,
sir.
Delhi, and do you know of a case filed by IIT Delhi against the Delhi Metro Rail Corporation, and why?
No, sir, I'm not aware of this. Sir.
Do you know that there is one of those metro stations which is named, co-branded as Fiji?
Sir.
Have you heard of it?
Indeed, sir.
Yeah, what's wrong in it?
So the IIT Delhi had filed a case against the DMRC, saying that the name of the metro station was IIT Delhi, and so Fiji took over the branding, and so it called the metro station Fiji IIT Delhi. And so given that the Fiji center was right next to the campus of IIT Delhi, so it seemed like Fiji and IIT Delhi are linked in some sense, ostensibly, which is why IIT Delhi filed the case.
Then why did you say I don't know?
Sir, I couldn't remember at the point.
It's okay. Now, please tell me, what is the rate at which the farmers of India pay income tax on their agricultural income?
Sir, as far as I'm aware, sir, the farmers do not pay income tax.
Okay. But is their income from farming taken into consideration for any purposes in the income tax matters?
Sir, if an individual has farmland where they are getting income from farming, and in addition they are part of the formal labor force, then, sir, that part of the income is taxed.
Not very clear. Anyway, we'll discuss about it. Now, tell me, why is the Delhi government not able to implement their intention to supply rations at the doorsteps of the eligible people?
So in this particular case, so the Delhi government, so there was a issue with the terminology of the scheme. As so the Delhi government was attempting to use the existing PDS scheme and deliver it to the doorsteps under a scheme which was titled as Mukhyamantri Har Ghar. So the name of the scheme had Mukhyamantri in it.
Yeah.
And the central government had said that as part of the PDS, it's a central scheme and it cannot be rebranded.
Okay. Okay. Right. Then what did the Delhi CM do? Doesn't have any authority. Doesn't have any authority to implement in his own way.
Sir, I believe that the scheme was then left, sir, and not implemented.
Okay. Okay. Now, have you heard of the High Court of Delhi giving a direction to the Chief Minister to indicate as to when his promise to reimburse the rent paid by some people during COVID, or the rent that they could not pay because of COVID will be paid by the government. So what is that notice given by High Court?
Sir, I'm afraid I'm not aware of this particular notice.
Not aware of it. Okay, okay, no problem. Did you hear of Sustainable Development Goals of United Nations?
Sir.
Yeah, what are they, and where does Delhi as a NCT stand in implementing these goals?
Sir. Sir, currently, sir, there are a set of 17 goals which were called as Sustainable Development Goals, which have and this was done in 2015, sir. So these are successors to what were called the 30 Millennium Development Goals. And so they include indicators such as poverty, hunger, development, urban issues, so life underwater, life on land, etc. And so currently, as per the SDG India Index, so the NCT of Delhi is in the top 5 with respect to implementation of these goals.
Okay, good. And in which goal Delhi is considered to be the best, qualitatively, not number-wise, and in which goals they are not doing all that very well? Any idea?
Sir,
okay.
I'm not aware.
That's okay. That's okay. What is ease of doing business?
So ease of doing business is a ranking that is released by the World Bank on a yearly basis. And so it is based on 10 indicators based on which they rank countries.
So what does it indicate?
So the ease of doing business ranking indicates the overall business environment of a particular country, and it is based on indicators such as getting connections to electricity, registering property, so ease of trade of goods, etc.
Okay, good. What is insolvency and bankruptcy code?
So the insolvency and bankruptcy code refers to a mechanism which was instituted 2 or 3 years back. So which is an expedited mechanism for creditors to get value back from non-performing assets, or sir, in any, and so this is not only for financial creditors, but also for operational creditors and employees of the corporations. And so in this, under the IBC, sir, there is a time limit, a set of 330 days, and so within which the insolvency or liquidation of the has to happen. Okay.
Which is the regulatory body which finally gives its order about liquidation or resolution?
So the final body is NCLT, sir, and the appellate authority for that is NCLT.
Okay. Who is the insolvency professional or resolution professional?
Sir. So there are insolvency professionals who ensure that in case of insolvency, if the financial creditors have taken, if the financial creditors have assigned an insolvency professional, then they ensure that the insolvency process goes through the requisite mechanisms in order to ensure it is expedited.
Okay. Now, you know that in business, there can be several types of failures. A business failure, a financial failure, or there could be a fraud. So what do you think is the difference between a business failure and a financial failure?
May I take a moment to
please.
Sir, I believe in the case of business failure, it would refer to a situation where the business is no longer viable, and even in the future, the business cannot work given the business environment. And in case of financial failure, sir,
I understand. Good. So tell me the difference between a public-private partnership project,
sir,
and a joint venture.
Sir, a public-private partnership refers to a situation where, sir, a public entity that is owned by the government or partially owned by the government collaborates with a private entity, and sir, a joint venture can be between two private entities, two government entities, or between the private and the public entities.
Now, the government of India permitted the states to borrow a little bit more money than what is permitted under the FRBM Act.
Sir.
Okay. Now, up to what percentage can the states borrow now beyond 3% stipulated under FRBM?
Sir.
And with achievement of what conditions imposed by Government of India?
Sir, I believe the limit was increased by 2%, sir.
Yes.
And so there were 4 conditions set.
Yes.
So the 4 conditions. So the first being that so implementation of GST has to be improved. So I can't remember the other 3.
Okay, right? We'll discuss about it. Okay, all right. Now, see, normal people in Delhi, not you and me, we have recourse to all kinds of institutions. But if a normal person has a complaint against a police officer, a police SHO, there's a complaint, there's a grievance against a police officer, where does he go?
Sir, in the case of a complaint against a police officer, an individual has to go to a police station itself.
No, how can he go to police station when he has to complain against SHO of that police station? Anyway, it's okay. Now, what are the challenges of a civil servant according to you? You have seen several civil servants.
Sir, I feel currently civil servants are facing challenges on multiple levels. So the first being, sir, the issue of so the influence of politics on the permanent executive, sir. So the second being ensuring that one is technologically keeping up to date as the world is changing very fast, and keeping up to date with the new developments is challenging. And so thirdly, I believe that so civil servants have to, in these days, given that there is a lot of social media, there is a lot of there's a presence of a lot of cameras, etc., everywhere. So there is a added lens on the personal and professional life of civil servants, which requires them to be more aware of their actions.
Okay. Now, finally, I come to my co-panelist. Tell me, what is the EIA?
Sorry, sir.
EIA.
Sir. So the environmental impact assessment is the mechanism under the Environment Ministry, so which is essentially to determine the scope of any development project and how it may affect the environment in the future.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Hello, Anirudh.
Good morning, sir.
Very good morning. You are an M.Tech, from biotech, and you chose anthropology.
Sir.
Currently, perhaps partly out of love for the subject and partly as a strategy to crack this exam, I suppose. Now, tell me, what has been your takeaway, as a M.Tech graduate and having studied anthropology? What insights have you gained?
So the first and foremost insight that I gained was the fact that, so in biotechnology, we learn everything in a very standardized way. While in anthropology, we focus on the differences within the human race. So understanding how humans are made differently, how different diseases may affect certain humans, and how evolution, and so I got to appreciate how evolution occurs because of the environment, and how the environment drives and selects the evolution.
Now, there is something called, the moment we talk about anthropology, then we talk about, different races, then our focus shifts to what is called, quote unquote, the so-called tribes, right?
So,
now, the moment someone talks about anthropology, oh, it's all about tribes, right? No, why do we look at them, as something very different from what we are?
So the primary reason why tribes are looked at differently as from what we are is because, sir, most of the tribal societies in India till the last couple of centuries were not in constant contact with the mainstream society. So thus their culture, their religion, their practices of family, marriage, etc., grew on a different tangent. And so when they were exposed to mainstream society thought that this was very unique and was very different. And so tribal individuals, like most other individuals, are highly attached to their culture. And so their culture is deeply rooted in the environment around them.
And essentially, how do we distinguish between, the so-called quote-unquote mainstream and tribal? What characterizes them or what distinguishes them from the so-called mainstream?
So there have been a set of conditions given in different commissions, such as the Dhibar Commission, etc. And so these distinctions include that. So first would be that they live their means of economic. So their means of getting food, etc., and their means of economic growth is something that is very primitive. Second, so their means of getting food is relatively more primitive, that they don't focus primarily on agriculture, they're hunting, they're gathering from the forest, etc. So third is that their culture is substantially different than what is considered to be mainstream culture. So fourth is that their level of technological development is not at par with the mainstream society. So there are two more parts of the definition that I'm putting.
That's okay. That's okay. Perhaps their ability to earn as much as, people, the so-called mainstream people do not, their ability is very less to make money and okay. Now, tell me, as a M.Tech graduate and also with some kind of global exposure, and as an aspirant for civil services now, there is this controversy about merit over seniority in recent times for the top job in defense services. It has been in the news.
Huh?
It has been in the news,
Sir.
Isn't it? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Would you like me to repeat? Yeah, this issue of merit over seniority has been in the news.
Sir.
In defense services for the top job. Okay.
Sir.
And there are also different viewpoints about it. Now,
Sir,
can you sum up this entire controversy? Is there any downside to picking up a meritorious candidate to head the armed forces? After all, when someone is meritorious, obviously job should go to him.
Indeed, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, I feel in the case specifically of defense services, so the issue of meritocracy and seniority is a little different than in most other organizations. So essentially in the defense services, so there is a command structure which is based on a seniority structure. And so in the defense services especially, it is imperative to ensure that all of the juniors, all of the individuals under a particular senior are following the commands. And so this chain of command is what makes our defense services efficient, sir. And sir, in this particular instance, if there is meritocracy over seniority, then that might lead to a situation where someone who has served under an officer might become his senior. And so that disrupts this chain of command. So that I believe that disrupts the chain of command, and additionally, it might also lead to a situation where the senior refuses to take the order. So which is why, sir, I believe that in the defense services, maintaining seniority is as important, while at the same time, so giving more importance to meritocracy within that same level can be done.
Okay. Now, after all, we raise army only to defend our country, and also perhaps in the very unlikely event of having a war, we have to win the war. So what is wrong in picking up a very efficient person as the top, for the top job? After all, it is management by objective. If you apply MBO, ultimately either the defense forces have two main objectives. The objective is, in the first place, you defend the country, and also where it becomes necessary, you also launch attack, offense. If a person is capable of doing both, why not pick him up? And why get bogged down with organizational issues, hierarchical issues, and all that? Because nation's interests are more greater than internal organizational issues.
Sir, I believe that in this particular instance, sir, if an individual is chosen, so there is no doubt that their decision making and their approach towards the war might, in all probability, will be better than the other individuals. But sir, their positioning at the helm would perhaps antagonize a lot of the individuals that they're commanding, which might lead to insubordination, which is not something, sir, I believe we can afford, especially in a time of war.
I see. Okay. But is there a way out, or is it a logjam now?
Sir, I believe that there is a way out. That, sir, for instance, the defense forces itself, so retires individuals at different ages, and so the meritorious go on to till the age of 60, 62 to continue to serve, while some individuals are retired at the age of 55, 56, 57. So this ensures that the individuals who are going to the very top in the defense services are individuals who have proved their merit in the past. And sir, I believe this system has worked well for the Indian Defense Services.
But are there no instances in the past about seniors being overlooked and juniors being appointed for the so-called quote-unquote merit?
Sir, not as far as I can say. I'm not aware, sir, of the exact.
Now, Parliament session has just concluded, and we passed as many as 20 bills, right? But then those who are keen watchers about our democracy and parliamentary processes are not really happy about the way these bills are passed, and the number of bills that have been passed is also a matter of worry for some people.
Right.
Can you tell me what is the problem? If Parliament is making more and more laws, it should be a matter for rejoicing, isn't it? The democracy is vibrant. So what is the problem? So Parliament doesn't make laws also is a problem. Parliament makes laws also is a problem. So how to silence these critics, I say?
So I believe that in this particular parliament session, sir, this particular parliament session was underlined by the protests that were there continuously happening and the disruptions that were happening in the parliament every day. And so the fact that 20 of these bills were passed in overall only 21 hours of functioning in the Lok Sabha. And so even within these 21 hours, the average time of discussion on each bill was less than 20 minutes. Sir.
Okay.
Additionally, sir, less than 21% of all of the bills have been referred to parliamentary standing committees.
Okay.
And sir, I believe that the objective of the parliament was to ensure that all of the legislations that are happening happen based on discussion and discourse. So they are given to the parliamentary standing committees to get opinions of the expert, to get public opinions through the newspaper discussions, through experts coming in, etc. However, sir, given that this was not done, it is said that there is a unilateral passing of legislations without due deliberation and discussion, which is why critics are saying it is a threat to democracy.
Now, ideally, what should have been done? For a given, let's say, a bill which has got a lot of implications. What is the parliamentary procedure?
So the ideal procedure in Parliament is that so when a bill is introduced, it is introduced on the floor of the House. So copies are distributed to all members. So then there is a two-step process of passing the bill, where sir, after one level of discussions, amendments are discussed among the members, and sir, if so with or without the amendments, then the second stage starts and deliberation occurs again. And sir, before that, it can also be referred to a parliamentary standing committee, which can further amend it based on how, if there are any technical issues.
So what is the difference between a standing committee and an ad hoc committee?
Sir, a parliamentary standing committee is permanent in nature, and sir, a parliamentary ad hoc committee is set up for an ad hoc purpose, which so based on the developments in the country.
What does a public accounts committee do?
Sir?
What does a public accounts committee do?
So the Public Accounts Committee is one of the financial committees of Parliament, and so it essentially goes over the public accounts of all of the public offices in the country, and so it ensures that they are in order and there is nothing wrong with public accounts.
Talking about public accounts and financial aspects, tell me, what does CAG do?
So the Office of the Comptroller and Auditor General of India is responsible for auditing all of the central government accounts, all of the state government accounts, and additionally, sir, all of the accounts of the government bodies and the PSUs. And so they ensure that all of the balance sheets are in order. There is no account that is not fulfilled by the government, and that the accounts are in order.
After they go through all this, they do this exercise, apparently they must be producing some kind of a report.
So,
where is that report placed, and what happens to that report?
Sir, I believe the CAG report is presented to the president, and the president lays it on the to the house, the two houses, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha.
What is performance audit?
Sir?
Performance audit.
Sir. So the idea of performance audit is that the overall performance of a particular organization is audited based on not only the objectives but also the amount of resources used.
Now, I will give you a hypothetical situation. Now, ANIRUDDH is made a mediator between government and the protesting farmers, and your task is to diffuse the entire situation.
Sir.
What would you do?
So may I take some time to think about it?
Yeah.
Sir, if I were made the mediator, sir, my first order of business would be to go and talk to the farmers, sir, and try to understand their perspective and what exactly are issues that are bothering them. So once I understand that, sir, I would go to the side of the government and, sir, voice all of these issues. And so given that there are only 2 or 3 issues which are primarily based out of an inherent fear that the farmers might lose their land in the future, etc. So the government and the farmers can come together on the table and, sir, ensure that these particular instances where, so such as the fact that private companies, the farmers do not want private companies to enter the business as they feel they might lose their land. However, sir, this does not have any implication on the Essential Commodities Act. So, sir, I feel the first step should be to have a foot in the door policy of passing a few of the amendments or parts of the amendment, and then once the success of these amendments is tested, then in the future pass the rest of them, given on the earlier successes. So I believe the Essential Commodities Act is one act that should certainly be passed. And so apart from that, some sections of the Farmer Trade and Produce Act can also be passed.
Now tell me, as a in charge of the district, let us say it comes to your notice that certain injuries in your district are discriminating against the so-called untouchables. Okay. Sir. They are using different kind of crockery and cutlery, and also different kind of separate enclosures for the so-called untouchables. Okay, so how do you handle this situation?
So in this particular instance, sir, an investigation has to be initiated, and so to number one, ensure that any such complaint is substantiated by claims on the ground. And so second, getting witnesses to testify against the individuals who have done something, so who have were involved in this particular case. And so thirdly, ensuring that these individuals are booked under the Prevention of Atrocities Against SC/ST Act. And so once they are booked, so then the investigation can be carried forward. And so I believe that this should be done in a fast track manner, as sir, in this particular instance, sir, the deterrence effect of these laws is very high, sir. And so which is why, sir, I believe following the law and expediting the implementation of the law should be the way to go.
Now, what is Vivad Se Vishwas?
Sorry, sir.
Vivad se Vishwas. Vivad se Vishwas.
So the Vivad Se Vishwas is a program which was introduced to increase the knowledge about the cultural diversity in our country. So.
Okay. Anyway, right. Finally, tell me, how do you declare someone fugitive under Economic Offences Act?
Sorry, sir. So can you repeat the question, sir?
How do you declare someone fugitive?
Sir.
Fugitive economic offender.
Sir. Can I take a moment to recall?
Yeah.
So under the Act, sir, there has to be, so there is a minimum amount given with respect to the overall, so the economic offense, I believe it is 100 crores, sir. So secondly, a case has to be filed in a civil court, and the civil court has to send a summons to the particular individual. So thirdly, if the individual does not respond to the summons or does not appear in court in a given time of, sir, I remember 90 days, so then under the Act, he or she can be
declared. What is that Act you are referring to? What is that Act you are referring to here?
I believe it was called the Fugitive Economic Offenders Act.
That is finally to declare him as fugitive economic offender. But prior to that, a case must be registered against him, isn't it?
Sir.
So what is that? Under which Act a case is to be registered?
Sir, I believe it is under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act.
Okay.
Or the.
Now, someone, finally, during this pandemic, someone who lost his work and then he is really, in distress and comes to you and seeks your advice. Sir, are there any schemes or are there any, initiatives of the government I can look forward to and, take benefit of, and then which will help you, help me stand on my own feet? What would be your advice?
So my advice would be that, so number one, there are a lot of schemes which are giving, so if that individual is someone who was previously a business owner, so then they can avail the MSME Emergency Credit Line Guarantee Scheme to ensure that their business does not go under. And so any loans or losses that they have suffered can in the short term be tided over. So secondly, sir, if in case that individual was a previous, did not have any business, so then there are a multitude of schemes which give money to individuals to start businesses, so such as Stand Up India. So which gives loans to individuals to start businesses.
So let us also talk about the general Aam Aadmi, not the kind of persons, who are the so-called entrepreneurs. But let us also talk about, the more humbler versions of these people, such as, the street vendors and all that.
So.
Okay. Is there anything that the government has come up with to help them? Are you aware of any such schemes?
Particularly for the street vendors, sir. So the Pradhan Mantri Swanidhi scheme was initiated, wherein, sir, extra monetary incentive was given to individuals who lost.
How does one actually decide someone is a street vendor?
So there were a set of criteria given, sir. One of them included that the salary that the person is getting is less than 15,000 rupees per month. So the second was that they have to be certified by the local body or the local administration.
Excellent. That's all, Anirudh, from my side. It was really interesting talking with you.
Thank you, sir.
My co-panelist will continue this conversation. Okay?
Sir. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Anirudh.
Sir.
Happy Independence Day.
Happy Independence Day to you too.
Thank you. Chandigarh. So you have the World Heritage construction is there, which is declared as very, very precious by the UNESCO. Can you name it, and what are the specialities of that construction?
So the Capitol complex of Chandigarh has been named as a World Heritage Site.
Okay.
Has been named under the UNESCO World Heritage Site. And so particularly it says that the innovative designs of Le Corbusier in the Capitol complex of Chandigarh. Okay. So the Capitol complex of Chandigarh has 3 buildings, sir. So
Yeah,
one is
I
the
understand. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Anirudh, coming to Haryana,
Sir.
I think your native state. So there is one place called the Lakadpur Koregaon.
Sir, can you repeat, sir?
Koregaon.
Koregaon, yes, sir.
Yeah. So there is one issue is going on there. What exactly the issue?
So recently, sir, the Supreme Court ordered the Haryana government to evict individuals who were living in Koregaon, sir. And sir, this issue is because, sir, most of the land in the area was declared as forest land, and so these individuals came onto the land and built their houses and places to live. So the main issue is that these individuals are being evicted, and most of these individuals have been sold land over there and were not the initial settlers. So which is why they are protesting that they should be given an alternative habitation spots.
Now, suppose if you happen to be the administrator, how would you have, in a different way, in what way you are going to administer that issue or tackle that issue?
Sir, I believe that one of the issues in the one of the administrative issues in the area was violence, and so the ostensible high-handedness that was shown by the police and the administration in removing these individuals. So I believe that this could have been done in a simpler manner, where, sir, these individuals could have been given repeated notices as they were given, sir, and then subsequently, sir, a new scheme for their rehabilitation has also been initiated by the Haryana government. So awareness of these scheme to these individuals, to ensure that these individuals can make the transition in a peaceful manner, as it is a highly stressful exercise for individuals to be told that they have to be removed from their area. And so I believe that going on the field, talking to the individuals, explaining the situation to them, and explaining that the government, in their interest, has ensured that there is a rehabilitative mechanism for them, would have been my approach.
Mr. Anirudh, Faridabad, I think that's one of the very famous place. Now tell us 2 plus and 2 negative aspects of Faridabad.
So the two positives of Faridabad are that, sir. So the first is that there are a lot of touristy places. So for instance, in the movie Rang De Basanti, we see that there is a fort. So that is in Faridabad. Additionally, sir, there is a lake called Lake Badkhar in Faridabad. So secondly, sir, I believe that Faridabad is has a very open environment. So unlike most metropolitan cities, it is not crowded by large buildings. So there are a lot of open lands. There is a lot of green area, etc., which makes the city very livable.
Okay.
So the 2 negatives I feel. So the number 1 would be crime, sir. So crime in Faridabad is very high, and so there are a lot of instances of, so especially crimes against women in Faridabad. And so secondly, sir, I believe that Faridabad connectivity to both Gurgaon. So Faridabad is an equivalent of Gurgaon, sir. Sir, in the sense that it is equidistant from Delhi. It is a part of Haryana. However, sir, it has not undergone the same developmental regime that Gurgaon has seen. And so to that extent, I believe Faridabad could have done better in inviting office spaces, more real estate, etc.
Yeah, one, of course, what you said is about the crime. What is the second one?
So the second one is the speed of development in Faridabad, given that it shares a border with Delhi, and so it has a lot of potential to create more economic values.
Most polluted city.
Sir?
Most polluted.
Sir, the air pollution is...
Anyway, coming to Haryana, Niti Aayog observed that in 2 parameters, especially in crime, already you have mentioned. The second is about the unemployment. So why unemployment is so high in Haryana? It's a very advanced state.
So there are multiple reasons for the rising unemployment in Haryana, sir. So the first reason is that Haryana is highly urbanized, and given that out of 20 to 14 districts in Haryana are part of NCR, it acts as a magnet for migrants. So the competition for jobs is very high in Haryana. So secondly, Haryana is highly agriculturally productive, and individuals working in the agriculture sector are it's very remunerative for the farmers. Thus, sir, as a farming family, on average, earns more than 10 lakh rupees per year from agriculture itself. And, sir, based on this, a lot of individuals do not wish to get into a private job and perhaps work so the whole year for something that is lesser than their agricultural year. And, sir, thirdly, sir, in the case of education, Haryana has so perhaps underperformed based on based on the fact that the literacy rates, the rates of numeracy are relatively lower than its competitor states.
Okay. Coming to unemployment, Anirudh, your government, Haryana State Employment Local Candidates Act was passed recently. What is your view on this particular act?
Sir, I personally believe that this act, which ensures that 75% of all employees have to be from Haryana, so for jobs lesser than 50,000 rupees. Sir, I believe that this might lead to a situation which is not business friendly, and the business environment and the business sentiment in Haryana is hurt. And so this might lead to an evacuation of a lot of businesses to other places such as Noida. So I believe it's not in the best interest of Haryana itself. And so instead of a coercive measure, if positive nudges are used to ensure that the employees of Haryana, that the residents of Haryana are employed, so such as giving tax incentives to industries, such as decreasing their property costs, such as ensuring that these industries, the ease of tax filing, etc., for companies which hire more people for domiciles of Haryana, I believe would have been a better alternative.
You see, if you can see the conditions laid down by the government, there are low-level jobs, not high-level jobs. For the low-level jobs, normally when the people at the local area, they come. The people from maybe from Kerala or from Maharashtra, they don't come to the places. So in that case, then what is wrong? Because when the unemployment is so high, low-level jobs can be catered to the local people. Do you find anything wrong with this act?
So I believe that even constitutionally, sir, under Article 16, it says that so for the purpose of employment, there can be no discrimination based on residence, place of residence. And so secondly, sir, 97% of the population in cities such as Gurgaon, Faridabad, and the metropolitan cities of Haryana fall within the bracket of less than 50,000. So thus, this would require an overall rehaul of the entire workforce, which would be a substantial cost for the government, for the private companies, and this would also require them to train these individuals again, etc. So which is not in their best business.
Okay. As a student of anthropology, I think you will be very much delighted to see that there was a big discovery at Mangarbani Hills, that is in Faridabad only.
So,
are you aware of these findings? As a student of anthropology, will be very interesting.
Sir, I did read about it, sir, but presently I can't remember.
Okay, it's okay. Coming to Mr. Stan Swami, I think you are aware that he worked in Jharkhand among the tribals.
Sir.
Did you hear the name, Stan Swami?
Sir, I believe so. So as far as I can remember, this was the individual who passed away.
Yes, he passed away, but there was an issue. How did this man pass away? Where did he pass away? What was the issue? Are you aware of this?
Sir, as far as I can remember, sir, Mr. Stan Swami was booked under the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act.
Exactly.
And so he was under detention. Sir, and the detention has been going on for more than 2 years, sir, now. And so Mr. Stan Swami was repeatedly appealing to the authorities that he has physical body ailments as well as mental issues. So given that he is very old, and so a lot of his demands, such as so the fact that he needed extra straws to drink his water, etc., were not met, sir. And so under these conditions, sir, I believe he passed.
Now tell us, Anirudh, this act that's called the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. So this act, is it coming in the way of the human rights?
Sir, anecdotal evidence does point towards the fact that human rights are being violated, especially in the cases of detention under UAPA. So as very recently it was shown that So more than 70% of the individuals who have not been convicted under the Act are still under detention. And so these are individuals who sir, have not been convicted and still have been in jail for more than 1 year. Additionally, sir, the safeguards under Article 22, which are that sir, the magistrate has to be, so that the maximum time is 6 months for detention, and any extension has to be an exception and not the norm, is not being followed, sir.
So what are the changes made in this act, Anirudh? There are some changes were made, and the Supreme Court also gave one judgment. Are aware of these things?
Sir.
Yeah.
So very recently, the Supreme Court held that the Article 40, Section 43D of the UAPA Act, which says that so any individual for whom it prima facie appears that he or she has committed the crime cannot be given bail. Sir, under this section, the Supreme Court had said that it had given bail to certain individuals. As it has said, this is the primary reason why a lot of individuals are continue to be in the jails under UAP.
Yeah, Mr. Anirudh, you didn't opt for Delhi. So normally people aspire to go for Delhi, but you didn't opt Delhi as your first choice. So what is you got any aversion towards Delhi?
Not at all, sir. Sir, in fact, I consider Haryana to be my home state, sir. So I spent my childhood over there. So my maternal grandparents, whom I used to visit every summer, lived in Haryana.
Okay.
And additionally, so my father is served in Haryana.
Okay.
So which is why I chose Haryana over there.
So coming from the police family, so there is one issue in Delhi. That is the commissioner of Delhi was appointed recently. And there is an issue because most of the people were shocked and surprised to see the appointment of this particular individual as a commissioner. Now tell us whether this is as a normal process is appointed or anything is violated in this respect.
So the appointment of Commissioner of Delhi was made under the normal processes. However, it raised certain questions, sir. So the first being that the individual was not of the Agbot cadre. However, sir, this is something that has been seen in the past. The secondly, sir, the same individual was also in contention to be the CBI director. However, sir, a Supreme Court judge held as part of the committee that any individual being considered for a director general level post should have 6 months remaining of before their retirement. And so given that the Commissioner of Delhi is a DG level post, so the individual only had about so less than 10 days remaining for his retirement, which was the other cause for appointment.
4 days at the time of appointment. Yeah, anyway, yeah.
So primarily, sir, these two were the issues of the issues related to the appointments.
So there is one more issue, UPSC. So the list is to be sent to the UPSC then.
Indeed, sir.
Yeah.
So under the Prakash Singh judgment, sir, so the judgment held that UPSC has to create a list of 3 individuals, which it sends to the state in order to choose for the Director General of Police. However, so the primary issue over here is that is the Commissioner of Delhi to be construed as a Director General of Police, and is the rule of 3 of the UPSC to be used in Delhi also, sir?
Yeah, you see the nomenclatures are different, but the essence is the same. But such a person, if he comes as the DG, then you are the officer working in the department. How do you look at the issue?
Sir, I believe that it entirely depends on the individual who's coming at the helm of the force. Sir, there can be problems, sir, such as the individual does not know everyone in the force. So there would be a problem of getting used to the way the systems work. And sir, I believe that like the problems, there are also positives, sir, such as that, sir, there can be a complete shake-up. Individuals would have to pull up their socks and ensure, so if the commissioner is proactive, individuals would have to pull up their socks, would have to ensure that they work at their maximum efficiency. And sir, efficient officers who have worked well in the past and have a good past record may get new postings that where they can perhaps do better. So I believe it can go one of 2 ways, and so it totally depends on the Commissioner of Delhi.
It's nice talking to you, Mr. Anirudh. Over to Somshekhar ji.
Thank you so much.
A very good afternoon, ANIRUDDH.
Good afternoon, sir.
You have spent some good time in a very environment, what you call stimulating environment and laboratories in Vienna.
Sir.
The Max Perutz labs. So, now I think the subject of your summer internship was cancer and aneuploidy. Aneuploid, I don't know how you pronounce it. Can you explain what this is in a simple language? What the subject? What is this missing chromosome about?
So aneuploidy is a situation where, sir, in a normal case, sir, all individuals have 46 chromosomes in their body. Sir, any deviation from this number is a situation that is termed as aneuploidy, sir.
Okay. So your study was only, did it result in any paper publication or anything?
So the PhD student that I was working with, so his paper is undergoing consideration for publication presently, sir.
Okay.
Sir, as it was the long drawn research, and
okay. Now coming to the subject itself, Max Perutz won the Nobel Prize in 1962 with another John Kendrew in chemistry. Incidentally, in 2020, the chemistry prize was won by two persons, Jennifer Doudna and Emmanuel Charpentier. Okay. Now this Emmanuel Charpentier again spent a lot of time at this Perutz labs and led a lot of research. Indeed. Now the work done by these two persons which won the Nobel Prize resulted in what is called the genetic scissors. Okay. Now this CRISPR-Cas9 technology. Now, can you tell me what are the implications of this utility, and can India utilize this according to you in which areas?
So CRISPR technology has CRISPR technology has made the ease of doing genetic engineering very easy. The technologies existed in the past, but it has just become a lot easier using CRISPR technology. And so the overall applications and issues related to CRISPR technology work on multiple levels. So the first being the philosophical level, that's changing the genetic code. So means that we are playing with millions of years of evolution, and that we are perhaps playing God. The second is a technological challenge, that we do not completely understand the off-site effects of genetic engineering. So the effects of genetic engineering have not completely been characterized. However, sir, lab researchers have shown that a lot of congenital diseases, such as sickle cell anemia, such as Huntington's disease, etc., can be cured using CRISPR-Cas9 if it is done before the child is born. Additionally, sir, CRISPR-Cas9 sets can also be used for genetic therapy, gene therapy, wherein individuals with a genetic issue can be
generic response, okay, but what I'm asking is the application in India. Has there any effort being done, or are we using this? Or are there any ethical issues that are bogging down this technology application in India?
So in India, sir, CRISPR-Cas9 is primarily used in the labs, sir. And sir, agriculture is one field where it has shown a lot of promise. So the second field is bioenergy. So creating microorganisms that can more efficiently convert organic waste and lignocellulosic waste into bioethanol is something like CRISPR-Cas9 is being used.
Okay. Anyway, coming to Delhi, you studied in IIT Delhi, and I think in the last 1 month you must have observed our monsoon session of Parliament. How there was this mad rush to pass bills, the chaos, the shoutings, and also the little attendance. Now, in this background and also the environmental issues that Delhi is facing, what do you think of the Central Vista project? What is the need for the Central Vista project? Do you think in the present circumstances, is it wise to go in for such a project?
So can I take a moment to think about it, sir? So may I also have a sip of water, sir, as my mouth was a little...
Oh, go ahead. Yeah. genetics is tough. Yeah.
Sir, with respect to the Central Vista project, sir, so there are 3 sub-projects within the Central Vista project. One deals with the construction of the new Parliament building. So the second one deals with the construction of new residences for the Prime Minister and the Vice President. And the third deals with the building of the new Central Secretariat, sir. So I believe that the construction of the new Parliament is perhaps the most important, sir, as by 2026, so the number of seats in both the Lok Sabha and in the Lok Sabha are bound to increase. And so this increase would necessitate infrastructure that can accommodate more people. So I believe that construction of the Central Secretariat would come second in line. So as a lot of the offices in Delhi are proving to be exceptionally expensive for the government, as these are very old buildings, and a lot of them also do not conform to the fire regulations, to the safety regulations of the Delhi government. So I believe that if there is one part of the Central Vista project that can be delayed, so then that is the residence of the Prime Minister and the Vice President, sir. So as they already have functional residences, and this is perhaps not something that is very urgent.
When you debate, environment versus development projects, cost effect, cost to advantages, and also the environmental impact. So this demolition of existing buildings, construction of new buildings, and all that. Something more meaningful, perhaps, of building tall structures, and with automated, in internet usage and all that. So a lot better can be done as an alternative than demolishing all that, and then nearly 3 kilometers distance, you're losing a lot of greenery and all that. So is it wise, or this can be delayed because of the pandemic situation, the costs involved?
Sir, I believe that the issue of cost is so perhaps not primary, sir. So as a demand for a new Parliament building and for Central Secretariat has been in the works for more than a decade now, sir. And additionally, sir, it is something that is now required before the year 2020. So secondly, sir, I believe that with the issue of environment, sir, all of the trees that have been cut, more than twice the number of trees are to be planted in areas near the Delhi Ridge, etc. And additionally, sir, a green arboretum has been planned to be built behind the Rashtrapati Bhavan, so which would compensate for some of the greenery lost in the area.
Okay. Finally, this Tokyo Olympics brought in a lot of cheer for India. We won the milestone. Now, there's a very interesting gesture by a company. Normally, winners have a lot of acclaimment and there's a lot of celebration. But one company said they would reward those who missed a medal by a whisker or came fourth. What is that company and what is the gesture they have announced?
Sir, the Tata Group announced that they would be giving monetary compensation to, so they would be giving Tata vehicles and some monetary compensation to all of the individuals who came fourth or missed the medal by a whisker.
Can you recollect any 2-3 people who have missed it now and missed it in history?
So historically, sir, in athletics, sir, we saw P.T. Usha and Sir Milkha Singh come fourth in athletics. So in the most recent Olympics, we saw the Indians women hockey team come fourth. So we saw, sir, there was a gentleman by the name of, sir, I don't remember his first name, but Punya was his second name, who came fourth in wrestling.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, that is nice talking to you, Anirudh. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Okay, then. So I think that would be the conclusion of the mock personality test, Anirudh. When is your actual interview?
So it's on the 24th of August, sir, about 10 days from now.
Good, good. Is this the first time you'll be facing the Civil Service Interviewing Board, or earlier also you've been there?
Sir, I gave it last year as well.
So how long was that interview? Last year?
So that went on. Sir, I couldn't keep a track of time, sir. And so within the interview room, it was very hard to judge. But sir, I believe it was close to half an hour.
Generally, 25 minutes is the duration. Upper limit is 30 minutes. It's never beyond 30 minutes. So they must have more or less interviewed for between 25 to 30 minutes. So you will have to make sure that your answers are such that they are not lengthy, that the key phrases or key words are used in your answers. That way you will be able to expose the multifaceted personality that you are to the members of the board. Beyond that, I have nothing much to say. Now I'll hand you over to the remaining members of the board. They will give you their feedback as to how we have done. During which time you may be tempted to ask a few questions, but hold on. I'll give you an opportunity to ask all the questions and seek clarifications towards the end. Now I'll hand you over to Dr. M.G. Gopal. Gopal Garu?
Yes, sir. Mr. Anirudh, can you hear me?
Sir, I can.
Yeah, good. So, as I agree with what Chairman has said initially about your performance, I think it's good. You are well informed. Actually, we are here to criticize you, not appreciate you. So we'll have to find, areas where you can build on your strengths. And, if at all you have to work better in some areas, you can get the inputs and work better. Okay. My first suggestion is that you must update yourself on very interesting happenings. At least in Delhi, it's not throughout the country. Like the High Court for the first time asked the CM as to when he would be taking a decision. They've not directed the CM to implement his announcement that the rent would be paid by the government in case the tenants are not able to pay to the landlords because of COVID reasons. So they wanted CM to say, what are you going to do about it? You promised in a press conference. So CM had to file a counter, and of course CM would say, or would have already said, I am not the government in Delhi. You ask the Lieutenant Governor. So this is an interesting development which will take us to, several, things in store from the courts to the elected representatives. Okay. They call it a reasonable expectation. When the CM makes an announcement, the courts call it a reasonable expectation. Okay. Then CM's governments would say, no, it's not a policy decision. And as CM said, he's not the head of the government, things like that. So just if you are aware, then you will be able to take further questions on that particular issue, because this is an interesting development. Then don't be very vague in answers if you are not sure. Saying no, as you said to some of the questions, is okay. Now, for instance, on agricultural income tax, you answered very rightly that there is no agricultural income tax in India. Very right. Then when I put a further question to understand the depth of your knowledge, you knew that there is some non-agricultural income and agricultural income, but you could not take it forward. Actually, you are generally vague. See, if you have non-agricultural income of salary of say 10 lakhs, say agricultural income of 10 lakhs, total income is 20 lakhs, but you pay income tax only on 10 lakhs, that is non-agricultural income, but at the rate which is applicable to 20 lakhs.
Okay, sir.
That's slab.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Just since I asked that question and I wanted to clarify. Okay, then you also were vague about IBC code. You said 2-3 years back it was started. So when it was not required to say when it was started, so IBC code is all right. You answered very well. You said it was started 2-3 years back. Actually, 2016, the IBC code was started. So you should guard against telling something of which you are not sure and which is not required to be answered. Unless probed. If next question is when did the government bring in IBC code, then you could have said, sorry, I'm not able to recollect, or can I take a guess? Or then, but when it was not warranted, you don't have to get into that detail. Okay. Then it's not necessary that you should know all the answers. But since I asked again, about 3 to 5% increase in borrowings as percentage of FRBM. There are 4 reforms which are expected to be taken up by the state governments. One is EODB reforms. Second is municipal reforms. Then electricity distribution reforms. Then One Nation, One Ration Card scheme implementation. Just for your idea, okay? See, there is a police complaints authority in every state. Many states have constituted. So if you have a grievance against a police personnel, SHO, if he doesn't, register FIR, if you go to the police station, perhaps next time you will not be allowed. So there is a police complaints authority to whom the grievance can be addressed. Okay. Then what is the other one? Mukhyamantri Gargar Ration Yojana is what is objected to initially by the union government, saying, how can you give your own name? Subsequently, several reasons were given, saying that the scheme is being implemented under National Food Security Act and public distribution system. There's no guarantee that biometric, will be followed. Because if you go home, if the particular owner is not there, who can give biometric, they can deliver to anybody and escape. So there are several reasons to it. And even Lieutenant Governor said, no, it's not possible to implement. Therefore, it could not be implemented. Now, otherwise, I'm coming with positive points later because I wanted to first impress upon where you should improve. Now, you are very, very articulative and you have fairly good idea of various, aspects and subjects beyond your academic background, and you are optional, generally aware and quite cheerful. You are confident. These are good traits. And I am sure with this, touching up about the latest events, polishing, then I'm sure you will be able to do extremely well. Okay. Wish you all the best.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, sir.
Anirudh, while I must appreciate your ability to put across, what you know to a given question, I find that you have a tendency to do 2 things. Number one, gloss over a few things and also give an impression that you know it. But when we actually go into a few specifics, I think you are faltering there. So please don't try to, sort of impress. You know it, you say it. You don't know it, sorry, I don't. Sorry for being a little abrasive, but the most hilarious part was the Vivacha Viswas answer. You said that was something to do with culture. Practically, it is about the most mundane part of our life, about Rokda.
Sir, I got confused, sir. I apologize. So now I'm remembering what Vivacha Vishwas was. It was the tax debate.
So that is where the tendency shows actually. The tendency is, number one, somehow you feel that okay, you give an impression that you are fully familiar with more or less everything that is being asked. Number one. Number two, that you try to give some broad strokes and then give an impression that okay, the candidate knows. But when the questioner asks you a few specifics, then I think you are a bit, kind of a giveaway. But avoid that, curb that tendency. Curb the tendency, impose yourself, on yourself some restrictions, and then you stick to the facts. And where opinions are required, finally our chairman will also give you a final roundup. Try and sum up the issues on 2 sides of the coin, and say these are the 2 different facets of this problem. And then if specifically asked, what stand you take? For instance, I asked you about merit versus seniority in defense forces. Okay, yeah, while you summed up the issue, it's also there. Some are welcoming it, some are not welcoming it. As you rightly said, the present system stood the test of time. That's all good. But at the same time, there is also a need. There is also a need to incentivize those who perform very well and also meritorious. But then before we actually take a policy decision, we need to put in place quite a lot of other things. we need to refine what is merit, what are the attributes of the person, how in different ways his merit can be decided. These are some of the many things that we need to look into. So therefore, uh, when it is warranted, perhaps you can take any approach. That the certainly sir seniority only is the best thing forward, or you can say, yeah, if the criterion of judging merit is further refined and it is more objective, more rational, uh, more amenable to you say reasoning, perhaps why not merit? Okay, both ways it is possible. And likewise, for instance, your mediation between government and farm laws. After all, the Supreme Court has already stated the operation of the law for 18 months, number one. Number two, the committee has already been set up. Farm leaders are invited for discussion. Number three, most importantly, assuming that all the protesting persons are true farmers, why they should be wasting their time sitting on the roads? They should go back to their farms and start cultivation, because monsoon is active now. Should they not leverage the weather conditions now?
Absolutely.
Then what are they doing sitting on the roads, having free khana, langar khana, and also all kinds of pictures are circulating in social media. They are enjoying themselves on see doing bhangdas, or perhaps drinking gallons of beer. All kinds of things are happening, isn't it? So apart from things, if you can prioritize what are the focus areas, perhaps you will come up with better answers. Okay. So therefore, I would only like to sum it up by saying that where you are very clear, you mention it, but just don't resort to guessing game. And sometimes your guess is so wild that it was really hilarious.
I got confused between Ek Bharat, Shresth Bharat and Vivad Se Vishwas. I apologize.
So I found you, and I found your tendency. That's why I just hinted at this particular phrase, catchy phrase. So curb the tendency where you are sure you give an answer. Otherwise, maybe sometimes you can also ask, perhaps this is what it means. I'm really not very sure. But the best thing is, I'm not really very sure, sir. I'm not able to recall. That is the best way out. Okay. But otherwise, you have, good articulation, and also where specifics are needed, please don't take risk. Where specifics are required, please don't take risk. Okay, opinions, like as they say, facts are sacred, opinions are free, isn't it? So where facts are concerned, don't hazard a guess. But where opinions are required, you can take any view. You can say farmers are on the right side, you can say government is on the right side, any which way you can take any stand. That is a different matter. But where facts are concerned, they are sacred. So stick to the facts. But otherwise, articulation is good. Maybe you need to, help yourself with facts, more of facts, and don't compromise on facts. Okay. That's all I have to say. All the best to you. And but by the way, what was your last year's score?
So it was 190. Sir.
That's a very good score, actually. I don't know. Maybe did you score less in anthropology?
Sir, it was average. It was an average score across the board, sir, in all the GS papers and my optional paper.
Overall performance was average. Okay. But even anthropology also, I think you need to read up a bit.
Sir.
What characterizes a tribe. Apart from those things, like low technology and all that, there are also. I wish you had mentioned about the nature of endogamous relationship. Some of these terminology which is relevant to the discipline you must use where it is required. Okay, that will give an impression that you have really applied your mind to reading of the subject, and then okay. So these are a few tips that you need to keep in mind. Otherwise, I think you will certainly cross 200 this time. But much depends on your score in the main. So that will be the desideratum finally. Okay. All the best to you. God bless you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Mr. Anirudh, what we observed is that your attitude, this is the issue. Normally, you are brought up in an urban environment. You tend to see this picture from one perspective. So we want to see whether you see the other perspective also. So that is the main intention of asking these questions. It is not to get the answers. We know that you can easily answer these questions. But one thing is that how you are going to look at things, that's important. So when we talk about the Haryana State Employment Local Candidates Act, so you have gone to the constitution, you have also resorted that people will migrate from this place if this act is implemented. Fine, but one thing you must always see that in a place like Haryana, where there is a lot of unemployment, so the state should take some steps. And the state is taking that certain percentages should be earmarked for the low-skilled employees. So even though it has put it 50,000 rupees up to 50,000 rupees, it is not particular. But the question is, there should be a give and take policy whereby the people should also help the government, because government is helping the people to start industries, giving so many facilities. So when the state is asking such small things, so the people should also respond for that. So for a smaller jobs, is not asking that all jobs should be not 75% all the jobs. The low level skills, they're asking a particular percentage. And I think when it is not also permanent, it's for the 10 years period they have given this. So there we have to see from the other's perspective. So there may be some point in asking the reservation for the local unemployment aspect. So from that perspective is important. And when we ask about, again, the Stan Swami, there also we want to see whether you see from other perspective also. When I ask about the human rights point of view, yes, definitely the judgment given by the Supreme Court and the amendment made in 2019 for the act, they are so draconian. And I think definitely we have to think about as a human being and as an administrator also, we have to see, because the treatment meted out to Stan Swami, it is definitely makes everybody think about how effective or maybe how beneficial the acts to the people, common people. Ultimately, the law should help the people, and of course, you can punish the culprits, but without ascertaining whether the person is a culprit or not. When the bail is not granted, 180 days, the change of that thing, 180 days, the charge is not, in fact, that is not at all brought to the court, but this person is now asked to suffer in the jail itself. So that type of inhuman aspects are to be addressed. So that's what the present CJ is also contemplating. So from that, what we have asked about the police commissioner Delhi. So you are not a police commissioner and you are not a civil servant even, you are an observer. So outside it's the type of a person is going to retire within 4 days. A person was rejected because his tenure is not more than tenure is less than 6 months. So he was rejected already for the CBI, but this person was now accommodated in some other way. I think that will not augur good for the administration itself. Suppose if you want to work under such a person, how are you going to adjust yourself? Because you find, suppose if a great person comes to you as your boss, you jump out of your skin to work with him. But if you find a person who got a tainted history, definitely you feel that you are not going to give your best. So there will be a lot of concerns for that. So the procedure itself is violated when he is now appointed as the commissioner. So there, when procedure is violated, what does it mean? That's a very, very important aspect. Every bureaucrat has to think. We must be loyal to the government when it deserves, but we must be loyal to the state always. So this is the thing we bureaucrats should think about it. So from that perspective, we want to see whether you are very clear cut and talk, say very clearly, but you are so diplomatic that you don't want to come out of this thing. So that is what we want to be very much concerned. So think about, you are an impartial observer. You have to give both the sides. And when you're asked about your personal view, then okay, you can reserve it. But try to see that you are going to throw light from different perspectives. I think my co-panelist is going to tell you about the central vista also. So there also we want to see whether you are taking, but you have taken a one-sided view. So that's my observation. Apart from that thing, the Angar Bunny Hill, so that is a very interesting find. In fact, the largest prehistoric site found near the Faridabad. So open air rock shelters were provided, Stone Age tools, and artistic paintings were also found from the Stone Age. So these are a very interesting aspect from the your subject point of view, that is from anthropological point of view. Of course, rest of the things, because you got 190 means it's an excellent mark in the civil services, but unfortunate thing is we may not maintain this. This is why, because once we may get 190, the other time we may get less also. But the point here is you got very good knowledge base and you got very good communication skills. There are your strong points. But the other aspect, what we want to give as a piece of advice to you is maintain a balanced view. Maintain a balanced view. Give both the perspectives. If you can do that, I think, Anirudh, definitely you will find your name in the top list, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, sir.
Anirudh, I think you're very articulate and confident in your responses. And as my co-panelist said, you have several, I think, good things going in your way. However, I think in a few areas, you tend to be longish in your response. Perhaps, you have a lot of information. You're a bit confused on prioritizing. For example, I had asked you about the applications of this CRISPR technology and in the Indian context, but you tended to be explanatory, then implications, then you came to applications. So I think you have to prioritize in terms of coming straight to what is required, so that you save time and also be clear, because the subjects, some of which you have worked on, are a bit complicated. They're evolving, some of them. So for explaining it in a simple language, I think you need to think and then answer in a structured way. That will make it easier. And the second issue on the central vista, again, you are very well informed. And as far as the justification of a project on a long-term basis, you are quite clear that the expansion in the number of parliamentary seats, space in parliament, that is okay. But then if you look at the other side of destruction of environment and loss of valuable space, green lung, then buildings of historic importance, heritage buildings, there is an issue. We can't be losing all this. And since you are an M.Tech chap from IIT with so much of technology available, you can think of how space can be better used and efficiency is improved than going in for such huge investment of, we do not know, 20,000 crores, especially when there is a pandemic and we do not know whether there will be third wave, fourth wave. You require a lot of money to save people, which is a priority, isn't it, at this point of time? So I think you need to take into all this holistic picture and then present a balanced view. Okay. The final thing on this Olympics, I think it's a wonderful gesture by Tata Motors to, give their Altroz car to those who came fourth. But you did mention a few, but you missed the most famous fourth ever in Indian Olympic history, that is Milkha Singh. He missed by a fraction of a few seconds. He came fourth. That is the best ever fourth performance. Okay. And then this year, the best fourth performance is by Aditi Ashok, a golfer.
Indeed.
She's a very young golfer, and out of 200 participants, she came fourth. Although I think most of us are not talking about her. But otherwise, I think your confidence, your good smile, your articulation, everything is going in your favor. So please take the suggestions and wish you all the best.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, Anirudh, you have heard the feedback, at the end of which, is there anything you want to ask us?
No, sir. I think, sir, the feedback was very helpful, sir. And so there are no questions that I have, sir.
Good, then, all the best. God bless you. I'm sure
Thank you so
you'll
much.
get into the IAS. Okay,
Thank you, sir.
bye-bye.